We have one more speaker, and then we'll open for questions. Victoria Kirby York.
Yeah!
All right, I guess I'm bringing the benediction today. I got a little bit of call and response for y'all, so I hope you'll join me, all right? My name is Victoria Kirby York. I'm the Director of Public Policy and Programs at the National Black Justice Coalition, the premier organization fighting for Black LGBTQ+ and same-gender loving people across this nation. Now, I see a lot of you reporters out there. The United States Congress, the President of the United States, and the mainstream media have been consumed with how quickly the United States can pay its debts to foreign nations. We've been obsessing over our credit limit. However, there are debts here at home the United States defaulted on before and after its founding. The debt owed to descendants of enslaved Africans surpassed our debt ceiling generations ago. The debt the United States government owes to Black Americans is past due. When a bill has not been paid for too long, it goes to collections. It's time to collect. Now, this is where the call and response comes in. So when I give a look back over my shoulder, I need for you all to say, it is time for us to collect what is owed. One quick practice. It is time for us to collect what is owed. All right. It is time for us to collect what is owed due to the wages stolen from generations of our ancestors through the trans-Pacific slave trade, which we don't talk about that often, that happened a whole century, a whole 100 years before the transatlantic slave trade, over half a millennium ago. We're talking about 500 years. It is time for us to collect what is owed to us for the multi-generational trauma that continues today, reflected in Black children being torn from their mother's arms by traders of enslaved people and prejudiced child welfare agents today. It is time for us to collect what is owed. For the promise of entrepreneurship to our African forebears that became English indentured servants and later racialized enslavement to keep us from organizing with poor white, indigenous, and Asian communities throughout the original primarily English-speaking colonies.
It is time for us to collect what is owed.
For the land and wealth routinely stolen from free Black families who poured everything they had into attempting to build a legacy their descendants could find pride in.
It is time for us to collect what is owed.
Now, when that didn't work, they destroyed the land, shout out to what was just shared about Tulsa, to prevent wealth accumulation.
It is time for us to collect what is owed.
For acts of domestic terrorism like Tulsa and Rosewood and those that never made it into the media, in the destruction of Black-owned farmland to create the Tennessee Valley Authority, which ripped land and wealth from my grandmother, whose birthday is today. She turned 83. And her siblings. She watched as everything her father built and poured into his North Alabama and Tennessee farms were completely destroyed. And he was moved from owning land and building prosperity for Black farmers to living into a very small apartment with his 4 children.
It is time for us to collect what is owed.
For the hundreds of thousands of Black LGBTQ+ and same-gender loving people and others piled up in hospitals and unmarked graves across the country due to the HIV/AIDS epidemic because the government chose not to act.
It is time for us to collect what is owed.
Y'all really good. Thank you. For the too many to count federal policies, such as FDR's New Deal and others that excluded our loved ones from the nation's safety net until we forced them to include us all. Segregated communities were institutionalized by the federal government. as a part of the New Deal through the establishment of the Federal Housing Administration's mortgage policies. These policies restricted black families' access to capital while increasing that of white families. Separately, the New Deal Social Security Program, which some people are trying to cut today, but I won't go there, initially excluded a majority of African American workers who were a part of the agricultural and domestic employment sectors.
It is time for us to collect what is owed.
Beautiful. For being paid less than white people to fight in the same wars in similar roles, and until recently, if you were LGBTQ plus on top of it, you lost your job and benefits and people found out. Now, let me add a little something to that. The U.S. government, thankfully and for good reason, is retroactively connecting Don't Ask, Don't Tell discharged service members with their benefits and updating records to show honorable discharge. Our government is also ensuring spousal benefits for those, as they should, for those unable to get married as the result of the Defense of Marriage Act. Now, as an organization that caters to black LGBTQ plus people, if the queer community I'm a part of can get reparations from our government doing wrong to us, certainly the black community I was born into and raised in should be able to as well.
That's right. It is time for us to collect what is owed.
To us by a government whose buildings we built, who stole money and land from us, and whose economic system exists because of our stolen and discounted by racism labor. The United States government stole our property and profit from our labor to become the wealthiest nation in the world. And there are a lot of nations we compete with.
It is time for us to collect what is owed.
To our families, so we no longer have a wealth disparity that is essentially a function of theft and intentional inequitable treatment by those we consent to govern us. Finally, while reparations are critical, our nation desperately needs access to our nation's complete and uncensored history to heal the divides that stoke fear, bias, and resentment. That's why the National Black Justice Coalition is proud to endorse Representative Bush's Reparations Now resolution, H.R. 40, and legislation calling for the establishment of the first United States Commission on Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation. You can learn more about our reparations policy recommendations by visiting www.nbjc.org. And for one last time, let's hear it. It is time we collect what is owed.